Alright, we're on the board with a double on coons right off the bat. We got a coon dagger and a Z-trap, and both of them perform very nicely.
Hey, Patty.
Got us an audience here. We'll get them dispatched and see what else we got. It's a good start. One of my goals this trapping season was to give a good rundown of the different dog-proof traps on the market and try to figure out which ones were the top runners for me. My go-to, the dog-proof trap that I've used for several years now is the Duke dog-proof trap. It's one of the cheaper dog-proof traps that you can get. But this past year, last season, I struggled in areas that I knew there were coons with my bait getting stolen. So I decided I was going to try something different. Tried several different traps. I bought a half a dozen of 5 different traps to try out and see. So the Duke, I'll just give you the specs and my thoughts on it. The Duke is a fine trap. I sometimes get criticism because I talk about how Duke traps are cheap, and they are. But that's why I bought these versus some of the. These traps are probably 5 or 6 years old. There's a little grizz. There's been a lot of traps come out in the last few years. A lot of dog-proof traps. I've had these a little while now, and they work fine. It's just a pull trigger. It's a flat or a straight bar trigger. Like I said, probably the cheapest trap cost-wise that you can get. And the Duke and the Bridgers were really kind of neck and neck as far as cost-wise. Bridger again is it's a pull trigger. It does have a circle trigger, but it's just a pull trigger. I like the spike. The Duke and the Bridger both have a spike. They come with a good chain, good swivels. Again, a good trap. It's got a circle trigger, which I think probably is a benefit for just a pull firing scenario. I also, though, one thing I did with my Duke traps this year is I switched several of them out with I bought I think it's Sudden Valley. It's a 2-way trigger replacement dog-proof trap triggers to convert them to a round push-pull trigger style, or a circle push-pull trigger, and in my opinion, they perform better. In my opinion, of using these traps, and the only one that I haven't used heavily yet is the Z-trap. I intend to change that some, but in my opinion, just to start with, if you are serious, if you want to catch coons and you want to go with dog-proof traps, push-pull trigger is the way to go, unless you've already got some traps. And I don't know about the 2-way triggers. I think they may be discontinued now, the replacement triggers. I think it was $30 a dozen, which significantly adds to the cost of your Duke traps, and it makes it more sense to buy a push-pull trigger than if otherwise, if you've got some Dukes laying around and you just want to modify them, then and that's what I did. But to me, hands down, push-pull is the way to go. So that's my 2 cents on that. The Dukes and the Bridgers are fine traps, but like I said, it's just a pull-only trigger. I think that is a weakness. Freedom brand, I got the Freedom brand 1, so there's an FB1 and an FB2. The FB2, I didn't get that, but it looks a lot more like a Duke or a Bridger. The one really slick thing about this FB1 is it's set up so that you just squeeze that baby back and it's set. There's no setting the trigger or anything. It's a flat. I keep doing that like you can see in there, but it's a flat, just a bar trigger, and it's a pull again only. It's got this a wide flat stake, which I didn't have any issue with. My only issue was with the way that it sets. I had some that when I would go to set it, the dog wasn't down far enough, so I actually had to get something and kind of tamp on it to get it where it would set. But they seem to set and fire fine like that. So I didn't have any issue with that. Again, pull trigger. So as you're going to the bottom of my bucket, or I'll probably wind up selling them, truthfully. And those are all, let's see, I just looked them up on Minnesota's, and the Duke and the Bridgers are both $11.95. The Freedom brand was $12.95. Or if you buy a 6-pack, you can get the Bridger for $67, the Duke for $62, which is pretty darn cheap, and then the Freedom brand for $72. So that's what, like I say, that's what I did. I bought a 6-pack of these, all of these. Moving on, the Z trap is right in the same price range as the Freedom brand trap. It's got the just kind of point nail style stake, which I like. It's got a couple of extra swivels, which is good. Or it's got an extra swivel in the middle. Most of the other traps just have the swivel point at the stake attachment, and then the end swivel. This one's got extra swivel in the middle, which with coons it's always good to have extra swivels. This is a push-pull trigger, and the one thing that I think is even more impressive about this is that on the dog, let me see if I can show you this. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but on the dog of this, here we go. On the dog of this Freedom brand trap, you see how that's round? There you go, you can see it right there. It's round, and it attaches to the square. Well, let's see, that's the trigger there. So the dog is square, but the trigger is round where it attaches. So that means that it's going to be all the more likely to fire with just the slightest movement. It is a versus this coon dagger is it's a push pull as well, but you can see it's flat, or yeah, it's flat. It's not round. So that's just an extra little bonus that I think may wind up putting that one ahead of the competition so far as quick firing. It comes powder coated, which I did notice the new Dukes do come powder coated as well. I like that. You know, it's something you don't have to do with. You just hook them up to your anchoring system and go. Like I say, I've yet to make a final decision on the Z trap, but I think going forward these are probably going to be my traps of choice for dog-proof traps. The coon dagger is it's a push-pull and it's a circle trigger. Again, I think the circle trigger is more of a plus if you're just dealing with a pull style trigger. It's got an angled stake end, which I'll be honest, I don't like. I had some issues in hard ground trying to get this in, and this combined with the top, and you see here that the top is not flush. When it's set, you've actually got the spring on the opposite end. So, you know, I like to set mine. I want it to set when I push it into the ground. So in hard ground, that posed an issue because I couldn't really stomp or pound on the top of the trap because the top of the trap's not flat. I didn't want to be pounding or stomping on the jaw there. So I like the push-pull, but I'm not real sure why they did it like that, but I don't really like the design of it. I don't like the angle on the bottom for hard ground because there's no good way to get it down into the hard ground solidly. So that's my 2 cents. The coon dagger is the most expensive as well. This was $13.95. The Z trap was $12.90, or $72 for a 6-pack. Exactly the same price as a Freedom brand. This is $82 for a 6-pack. So I think I don't think that the coon dagger, my personal opinion, is worth paying the extra money for. How about that? Like I said, I'm just kind of midway through this scenario, but this is my initial review. If you're wanting to do dog-proof traps, I would go ahead and you're talking about an extra $1 a trap maybe to to buy like a Z trap with a push pull trigger. So that would be my recommendation if you're wanting to catch coons. And I don't know why you would buy traps if you're not semi serious about catching coons. I would definitely go with push pull trigger. And as far as I know, there's only a couple of options out there, but I'll definitely try others as they come out. But I'm liking, so far, I'm really liking the Z trap. So.